Yo, yo. Yeah, the elements are getting harsh. Here where I live, out on the prairie, the winds are like 40 or 50 miles an hour, already closing interstates, so not very conducive to filming out of my little walks with the dog. And then, I was really redlining it with my long, hard hikes with a lot of vertical. I was doing it once a week and it was going well and I was progressing, I was getting faster, but the recovery period, I was feeling kind of a net draining effect for sure. My sleep started to suffer. And yeah, I had a couple more hikes in mind that I wanted to get in before the end of the hiking season, before the snow fell, and I just decided to take it easy. Got this nice gym at the complex where I live. I'm a member of Planet Fitness as well, so yeah, and I go out and do my prairie walks even in the wind. I just don't bring the camera with me. So I got plenty to do, plenty to keep me busy. Today I wanted to talk about, in this long monologue, just holding my phone into the camera. A great comment came up the other day. Someone just kind of asking, hey Matt, when you say, malaise, I don't think you mean it in the same way that we real sufferers from fatigue experience it. And yeah, you see that all the time in forums and whatnot. I was reading through a Reddit forum the other day and somebody was like, yeah, I was out exercising for a couple hours, and some other person was like, couple hours? I'd be in the hospital for a month, if I did that. And, fatigue is all completely subjective. It's what you experience. The fatigue itself, which, could be called the malaise part of the equation. And then there's the exertion part of the equation. And this series, and by the way, that Reddit thread, is kind of like had a big title, like right at the beginning, like, what if people with fatigue do for exercise? Full disclaimer, full warning, exercise is not a therapy for chronic fatigue. I believe that it is absolutely a wonderful therapy, the best therapy for chronic fatigue. It's not the only factor, but it's something that you can use to get better. And by better, I'm just talking to the two sides of the equation, right? On the one hand, you have how much exertion you can do, and on the other hand, you have how much malaise you experience from that exertion. It's pretty simple. So at my worst, having a phone conversation with someone for 45 minutes to an hour, I probably would have to lay down, like this person in the comment was suggesting. Malaise means real malaise, like people with real fatigue experience it, is like lie flat with your eyes closed, no stimulus, because your whole body, your whole nervous system is tweaking out. And yeah, I would experience that from something as simple as a phone call. I would experience that from a night where I didn't sleep well. I might experience that from working on the computer for an hour in a focused state. And I might experience that even from just reading a couple pages of a book. Particularly what I suffered from was dizziness. Like that would be my main subjective, assessment of my experience. Like I would be dizzy, the room would be spinning, I would feel like I was gonna pass out. I started having this pressure in my upper back when I feel like I'm gonna faint, and I would have that whenever I, overexerted myself. And sometimes I'd have to take like a day or two just to lay around in bed after doing something as simple as having a phone conversation for an hour. So I understand what extreme fatigue is. I've experienced that, where the malaise is very high in proportion to the amount of exertion that you're doing. And my exertion issues were not just physical, they were physical and mental. And, I've 10x'd my ability to exert myself And my malaise afterwards has reduced by a large percentage as well. And I attribute a great deal of that, maybe 80%, 70%, 60%, 60 to 80, let's say, to exercise. You know, the other components would be certainly super high carb nutrition and making sure to get adequate calories and just all the macronutrients. I mean, you can't, just because I emphasize carbs doesn't mean that I'm eating no protein or no fat. You need all of them. And any attempt to restrict any of those three will set you back when it comes to your fatigue, almost certainly. But you can certainly emphasize carbohydrates, that's important. And I do believe, although I haven't really touched on it much in this series yet, that you know, a lot of my fatigue was caused by my vitamin A poisoning, my vitamin A toxicity. So, you know, getting away and you know, from eating a lot of vitamin A rich foods and being very strict and very diligent about sticking to a low vitamin A diet for many years, I feel like it's just cleared up, especially that mental feelings of malaise that I get, the dizziness, the feeling like I'm going to faint, and all that. Anyway, needless to say, I can have conversations now, although if I overdo it for several hours, it can certainly get me. I can work, although I feel a little something if I work for several hours in a very focused state. You know, I might feel that the next day. I might feel that like I eat breakfast and I feel a little funky, dizzy, faint, have to lie down for a little bit after breakfast, let's say, and then go on to maybe you probably have a pretty normal day. So anyway, long story short, climbing out and improving your fatigue is about increasing the exertion and decreasing the malaise, plain and simple. And so the original epiphany that I had, and the original thing that really helped me, is I did some exercise. It was just body weight squats and push-ups, and I was up all night. I was up until 6 a.m. I had, you know, shooting pains in my left arm while I was like, you know, tossing and turning, trying to sleep. And it just messed me up really bad. And I had this idea, like, you know, a week later, let me try it again and see if I've noticed any improvement. And I, you know, had less pain. I was less anxious about, you know, just general feelings of anxiety. And I was able to fall asleep by 4 a.m. I mean, this is not a big improvement, but it was an improvement nonetheless. It was, hey, I just did the same thing, but I had less malaise, right? Now, I wouldn't recommend diving straight into body weight squats and push-ups. That is very difficult, and that is going to, if you have severe fatigue, you know, that might set you back so badly that it backfires. I want to talk just a little bit before I get into my little workout here, which is going to be pretty light and a lot shorter than a 6-hour hike. I think 30 minutes I'm shooting for today, just like high zone 2 cardio, something like that. What's really important is that you actually gain in fitness. If you gain in fitness, like you have a measurable improvement in your fitness level, you will be able to exert more and have less malaise, guaranteed. Now, it might just be a small amount, barely noticeable, but you keep repeating the process week after week, and especially month after month, because this takes years to really, you know, to really make a huge improvement. You know, you need some kind of measurable. And one of the things that I was into this year, and I set goals at the beginning of the year, was how fast I could ride a mile on a stationary bike. Another was how fast could I row 500 meters on a rowing machine. Another one was how many steps could I do on the Stairmaster in 30 minutes. Another is how fast could I walk a mile with a treadmill at 15 degrees. How fast could I walk a mile? That little place out on the prairie where I take my dog for a walk all the time, I wanted to get down to a 20-minute lap. It's a 1.5 mile loop with, 100 or so vertical feet. Yeah, I kind of wanted to be able to run walk 20 minutes. Well, I was making huge progress towards all those different goals, except for the rowing. Something about just physically, anatomically, like rowing and me don't get along. It hurts my hips, and I don't know. It's a funky machine. Not my specialty, but everything else is making huge progress on. But the problem I kept running into is that, doing, let's say, how many steps you can do in 30 minutes on a Stairmaster, or how fast you can do a mile. That's a great fitness test, but it's maximum exertion for like 30 minutes all out. And yeah, like I was fearing that. I didn't want to do it every month. So I started doing maybe one fitness test, like the bike 1 month, the next month might be stairs. And as I got better and better and more fit, I just got more and more resistant to doing these like all out fitness tests. And that's not really appropriate for somebody starting out at all either. So another thing that I do that I think is more appropriate for somebody who's wanting to make progress, but they can't push themselves very hard because of their severe fatigue. The greatest measure of whether or not you're getting fit is not how fast you can do something, right? Because what I've experienced is that, yeah, I was able to do more and more stairs in 30 minutes, for example. But it was just because I was trying harder, right? I was trying harder. As I got fitter, I could push myself harder. And how much of the improvements that I was seeing, which I've seen improvements of like 65% increase, how many steps I can do in 30 minutes since the beginning of the year, how much of that increase was because of increased fitness, and how much of that increase was because of increased effort. And it's like impossible, really hard to separate those two. So what I would recommend doing is setting a heart rate maximum. I hate to like get equipment involved and get scientific about it, but if you have really severe fatigue, you're gonna have to be scientific and methodical about making tiny little incremental progress, and you're gonna have to track your fitness levels to make sure that you're making progress, that what you're doing is working. And so there's a timer on these lights. I'm having to like move around to make sure the motion detectors don't put us in the dark here. So what I've done, one of my fitness tests is, I walk on an uphill treadmill, but I don't let my heart rate get over 125, and then I track the speed at which I'm able to do that. So like last year, I'm having to walk at like, I set it at 15 degrees maximum incline, and I'm walking like 1.3, 1.4 miles per hour, and then it sends my heart rate to 125, and then that's, I don't go above that, and I see how long it takes me to do 2 miles, right? If you're just starting out, half a mile maybe. If, again, it's all relative. So depending on how severe your fatigue is, it could be anything. But, try to find something that's meaningful to you and try to set up kind of like a smart experiment using heart rate. And set a maximum heart rate, or if you have a heart rate monitor and you want to do like your average heart rate, you could do that. How fast can you walk? 4 laps on a track. Like, how long does it take you to do it without your heart rate going over such and such? Or with an average heart rate of 120, it takes me 19 minutes to do 4 laps around a track. But you need some kind of baseline. You need some way to monitor real improvement. And my fitness test where I do that is where I've seen the least amount of improvement. I've seen a lot of improvement. Let's see, maybe 30% improvement roughly. Right around 30% is the improvement I've seen. But like I said, my stairs, I've seen 60% improvement, but so much of that is just increased effort. And I don't want to do those maximum tests anymore. Like, I need to get better, and it's not practical either. I don't go out and hike maximum heart rate. I don't go out and hike at 170 beats a minute. I'm not looking to die out there. And that's ultimately like what I want to be able to do. That's what I'm trying to facilitate, is the ability to work more, hike more, and just live a normal life. And also live an active, vibrant life. I live out here in the mountains, and hiking is my favorite thing. I finally got to move back out here, and that's what I want to do. So, but it could be anything for you. I mean, work is a big one. Like, I literally couldn't work. I could work an hour a day max, and even that was like, redlining. And that's nice to, to have the freedom to like work on a project for 3 or 4 or 5 hours and not be like screwed up for 3 days after. But anyway, set up some kind of fitness test, keep it easy. And if you want to use heart rate, if you're going faster at the same heart rate than you used to be, that's real fitness improvement. That is real fitness improvement. Like, I can get over here on this treadmill and walk 3 miles an hour, my heart rate doesn't get above 85. I mean, that's a big improvement from where I started close to 22 months ago is when, I really understood this process of improving fitness and how it's, affecting fatigue, those two sides of that fatigue equation, exertion and malaise. And huge improvement since then. But that's what you're really looking to do. So, but yes, I 100% believe that improving your fitness is an actual therapy for improving chronic fatigue syndrome and post-exertional malaise. And any kind of other accessory dietary things help. Improving your sleep quality. I mean, I probably should be more focused on sleep score and stuff like that as well. Maybe that's a new frontier or something that I can explore to see if I can get even greater gains. But the fitness itself, it's a therapy for chronic fatigue. It's been very effective for me. That's why I'm creating this series and sharing all this. So anyway, if you have any questions about how to set up, some kind of experiment for yourself to where you can actually track your fitness improvement, I'm happy to help you figure that out for yourself. Given the equipment that you have, given the, your situation, where you live, whether or not you have gym access, there's always a way to create some kind of test that you can do periodically to see if you're improving. Now, last thing I'll say is that I don't, to get better at walking faster up a hill while keeping my heart rate below 125, I don't just get on the treadmill and walk without my heart rate going over 125. I tried that last year, about a year ago, for several months, and I had no improvement at all doing that. So I actually get a lot of improvement from doing, short bursts of speed, intervals and things like that, sprinting up a hill, sprinting on the bike. What I've found for me personally is that I get more improvement from doing short bursts of intense activity, and then when I get on that treadmill, my heart rate doesn't go very high. It's just like, oh, this is much easier than what I've been doing, and this is, my heart rate doesn't need to get very elevated to be able to do that. Anyway, just a thought, but it's very personal, it's very individual, trying to climb out of fatigue and using exercise as a tool to improve your fatigue. You really have to try some things, see how it goes, assess your feedback. Like I said, fatigue and chronic fatigue is completely subjective. And you really have to be your own, scientist and make yourself your own experiment if you really want to get out of this in a meaningful way to a significant degree. Anyway, I'm gonna go work out a little bit. Catch you guys in the next one.